and welcome to my latest video on the climate. What I thought I would do today is, rather than give a presentation, I would actually do an experiment to prove once and for all that carbon dioxide and man-made global warming is correct. So what we have here is a water receptacle containing some water and an electrical energy pad that will represent the sun, with the receptacle and the water representing the earth. And what we will do is we will heat up the water as the earth would heat up from the sun, and then once it hits the requisite temperature, we will create a carbon dioxide rich environment by blowing on the water. Now remember, when you breathe out as a human being, you're actually exhaling somewhere between 35,000 and 50,000 parts per million of carbon dioxide. Now that's somewhere in the range of 80 to 120 times the amount of carbon dioxide that's measured at Mauna Loa in Hawaii. So let's bring the water up to temperature and see what happens. So we've now got the kettle on the way go forward. What we need to see now is what greenhouse gas theory would say. Now, what it would say is that a carbon dioxide environment will actually take and heat up the planet, heat up the water. So, when we create the carbon dioxide rich environment in the receptacle, we should not expect the temperature of the water to fall. That's what greenhouse gas theory says. So let's see what happens. Well, there we go, the water has now reached its requisite temperature. I'll take my glasses off and we'll blow into to create the carbon dioxide rich environment. Now I think that's probably enough puff for the time being. Now let's do a quick check. The temperature is at 100 degrees. So what we need to do now is give the carbon dioxide a minute or two to work its magic, and then we'll check the temperature again, see what happens. Now, while we're waiting, I'd like to tell you a bit about an expression used in Scotland, which is as follows: "Ack away and boil your heat." Now, the literal translation into English is "go away and boil your head." But that's not what the expression actually means. What it actually means is it's to dismiss someone who is talking nonsense, as in, "Ack away and boil your head, you're talking nonsense." Now for your Scottish viewers, nonsense is very much a very polite way of ending that phrase, as you will well know. So, now that we've had talked about that, and we will come back to that later, let's have a quick check to see what's happening with the temperature. And look at that, rather than staying at 100 degrees, the temperature's now actually fallen to 96. But that's not what greenhouse gas theory says. The temperature should not be getting lower, but it has. So why is that? Well, it's actually very simple. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. What I have here is a book called Equilibrium Thermodynamics by C.G. Adkins, and this was the standard text when I did my physics degree many moons ago. And I'd just like to read to you what the Clausius statement of the second law of thermodynamics is. It is as follows: "No process is possible whose sole result is a transfer of heat from a colder to a hotter body." In other words, if two bodies are at different temperatures, for example the Earth and the atmosphere, unless there's an additional source of energy, which there isn't as far as we're aware, then what will happen is that heat will flow from the hotter body, which is the Earth, to the colder body, which is the atmosphere, and not the other way around. And while that might not be what we've been told for many, many years in regard to global warming, when you actually stop and think about what our everyday experience is, it is exactly right. Now the warmest part of the day is generally mid to late afternoon, after the sun has been beating down, for several hours and then starts to get past its peak. The coldest part of the day is usually just before dawn, when it's been darkest and longest. And the reason for that is, it's the sun that heats the earth and not the atmosphere. All that can be said about the atmosphere is at best, it slows down the rate at which the earth either warms or cools. That's why a cloudy night always feels less cold than a clear night. But a cloudy day never feels as warm as a sunny day. If greenhouse gas theory was correct, then a cloudy day would be far warmer than a sunny day, but we all know that is not the case. In fact, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change itself alludes to that. Here is a copy of the Earth Energy Budget as shown in the 6th assessment report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And we see here that there are 340 watts per metre squared of energy from the sun arriving at the top of the atmosphere. Now that is the amount of energy that hits a square metre of the earth every second. As we can see from the IPCC, 100 is reflected back to outer space and 80 is absorbed by the atmosphere, leaving only 160, which is less than half the total amount of solar radiation received, is actually absorbed by the Earth's surface. So there you go, even the IPCC admits that greenhouse gases, and remember, water vapour is by far the biggest greenhouse gas, accounting for around 90% by volume of the greenhouse gases. That is what they say. The IPCC, greenhouse gas slows down the rate at which the earth heats. That's why a cloudy day never feels as warm as a sunny day. Okay, so now we have seen the experimental evidence with the water receptacle and the energy pad. We've seen the scientific evidence for why greenhouse gas theory is not possible, and we've also seen the Earth's energy budget from the IPCC, which agrees with the fact that all the atmosphere does is slow down the rate at which the Earth either warms or cools. Now, having seen all that evidence, if you still think, like the United Kingdom's Energy Secretary Ed Miliband, that net zero is unstoppable, then maybe you should go away and bell your head. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Now, one final thought for everybody. How many of you have taken a cup of tea and coffee and blown in it? By doing that, what you're doing is actually creating a carbon dioxide rich environment on the top of your cup. But ask yourself this, why do you blow on your cup of tea or coffee? Is it to warm it up? Or, as in most cases, is it not to cool it down? Carbon dioxide is not causing the planet to heat. And in fact, Dyson and Moyen, in their 2023 study published by Statistics Norway, they actually said that the effect of carbon dioxide on temperature is so small it can't even be measured. Thank you and goodbye.